Introduction to Xuanhuang Tianzun, The Blessing of Douluo. www.zhaozuiyuan.com. When Tang Wulin finally found his adoptive parents after going through countless hardships. Tang Wulin. Mom and Dad, I finally found you. Yeah, Wulin, we miss you too. Tang Ziren and his wife silently took out a single lens glasses, slowly put them on, and showed a kind smile to Tang Wulin. Meanwhile, in the https://www.zhaozuiyuan.com. Chapter 1. The protagonist who died once just after crossing the river. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, worm martial soul. Oh, it's another useless martial soul. Douluo Continent, Red Mountain Academy Awakening Room. With the words of the spiritual master falling, the little boy in front of him pursed his lips and remained silent. It seems that I noticed that my speech was inappropriate, and the spiritual master quickly said, Child, don't be sad, you have soul power accompanying you. Do I have soul power? The little boy in front of him looked at him in surprise. The spiritual master nodded and said, I just gave you a simple test. Although my innate soul power is not very good, I still have soul power. As long as you work hard, you can also become a soul master. The little boy in front of him was stunned and said, But my martial soul is a bug. The spiritual master smiled and said, Have you heard any stories about the Tang clan? The main martial soul of the founder of the Tang clan is the blue silver grass. 20,000 years ago, he used this completely useless martial soul in the eyes of ordinary people to dominate the mainland and defeat the evil martial soul Hull. But isn't the martial soul of the founder of the Tang sect the blue silver emperor? The little boy in front of him asked seriously. The spiritual master felt a bit awkward. This little guy, obviously not easy to deceive, the blue silver emperor also evolved from the blue silver grass. If you want to become a soul master, just work hard. The little boy bit his lip and said, Thank you, Master Spiritualist. Until he left the gate of Hongshan College, the little boy, also known as Nanfuxing, looked back and saw that the street in front of Hongshan College was already crowded, with parents bringing their children to participate in the awakening everywhere. Fortunately, I arrived early. Dad, what do you think my martial soul will be? The little boy, who had just turned 6, looked at his father with some excitement. Upon hearing this sound, Nanfuxing looked around and saw a little boy with short black hair, slightly taller than his peers. The most eye-catching thing was his big, black and white eyes, with long eyelashes that were not even as long as many girls. Although dressed in ordinary clothes, outstanding looks are still easily noticeable. Tang Wulin, seeing the protagonist of this world, Nanfuxing curved his lips and slowly turned around, no longer listening to the discussions of his descendants. Nanfuxing's home was in the civilian area of Aolai City. When he returned home, he said, I'm back. With a self-talk, Nanfuxing shook his head slowly, really uncomfortable. Is this my martial soul? As Nanfuxing lifted his right hand, a bug appeared in his hand, appearing semi-transparent. He looked at his martial soul. Hey, why did you travel back to the era of the legend of the Dragon King? But at least in this era, you don't have to worry about the surveillance of the 3 brothers in the divine realm. With cheats, you can at least become a god. Yes, Nanfuxing is a time traveler. At that time, he was at home watching the TV series Douluo Continent while scrolling through the novel, The Mysterious Lord. Unexpectedly, the TV series happened to show Sanji's, You Have the Way to Death. Then he traveled, but unfortunately, the family he traveled to was a shattered one. Men abandoned their wives and children, and women were also shrewd women. His existence seemed to be an accident. It seems that apart from a short period of time when he was just born, this family was beautiful. The love between young men and women, giving birth to children, gradually began to insult each other due to some daily conflicts, and eventually became strangers. And he died once around 3 months after birth, with his father running away from home and his mother playing wildly outside, as if there were no children at home. On the first day, I was starving and started crying the next day, no one cared and no longer cried on the third day, I starved to death and a cheat appeared, am I going to die, or am I still starving, hee. The darkness before him was dyed with the deep red brought by the light, and thoughts surged in Nanfuxing's mind, making it difficult to calm them down. At this moment, he suddenly felt that the air around him seemed to stop flowing, becoming sticky and eerie. Following closely, whispers rang in his ears, sometimes delicate, sometimes sharp, sometimes unreal, sometimes tempting, sometimes manic, sometimes insane. Even though he couldn't understand what the whispering was saying, Nanfuxing couldn't help but listen and distinguish. His head was in pain again, so intense that it felt like he had inserted a steel rod. Nanfuxing felt his head about to explode, and his thoughts were tinged with a psychedelic color. He knew it was wrong and tried his best to open his eyes, but he couldn't complete this simple action. The whole person became increasingly tense and could break at any moment. He could no longer bear it. As the string in his mind was about to break, the countless murmurs of noisy voices faded away, and the surroundings became very quiet, creating a rather ethereal atmosphere. Not only the atmosphere, but also Nanfuxing felt that his body was equally fluid. He tried to open his eyes again, this time very easily. The diffuse gray mist reflected in his eyes, hazy, blurry, and boundless. What's the situation? Nanfuxing looked around in shock, then lowered his head and found himself floating on the edge of an endless mist. Yuanbao is a term that suddenly appeared in Nanfuxing, and he also found himself in a spiritual state, corresponding pathways. Fool, error, door corresponding to the old days. The Lord of Secrets, the King of Time and Space, the Destiny Road Mark, the incarnation of the Source Castle, and the ruler of the Spirit Realm. Another piece of information emerged in his mind, and then he was kicked out by the mist. After waking up, I found that I hadn't died yet, and there was still a bit of strength in my mind. With this strength, I barely managed to get through the beginner stage. Afterwards, through research, it was gradually figured out that this should be the Source Castle in the Lord of Secrets. Life is really unpredictable. You can only have your intestines wrapped in your intestines. You can travel through a TV series or novel. If only you had known that you would have gone through, covering a certain day, fighting a certain sky, and completing a certain world, in the beginning, wouldn't you have taken off like this? No, the culprit is still third brother. Although I know this is not your pot, the last sentence I heard was, you have a way to die. Well, third brother, you already have a way to take death. After a moment of wild thought, Nanfuxing slowly walked to the kitchen and had a simple meal. After observing the time, he decided to go out for cultivation. Well, the cultivation of the thief, yes, Nanfuxing is already a thief. The human power system of the mysterious Lord is a sequential potion system, with 10 progressive systems including Sequence 9, Sequence 8, Sequence 7, Sequence 6, Sequence 5, Sequence 4, Sequence 3, Sequence 2, Sequence 1, and Sequence 0, for each pathway. After Sequence 2, there are also more complex level judgments. And Nanfuxing is a Sequence 9 thief. It is difficult to distinguish thieves from ordinary thieves and thieves. Perhaps they are more skilled in their means, and their purpose of stealing property is not for enjoyment or survival, but more like fulfilling a mission. There is a certain improvement in physical fitness. He is a very good user of daggers and short swords, which is the ability of Nanfuxing's Sequence 9 and his understanding of this sequence. Xuanhuang.com Extraordinary Abilities. Stealing. It is easy to steal items from the target's pocket without being detected. Agile hand. Improves the stability and flexibility of the wrist and fingers. The magic potion needs to be digested, and the way of digestion is to act as a behavior that matches the sequence name. As a thief, Nanfuxing can only play the role of a thief if he wants to digest the magic potion, which is also his economic source. However, every time he would stop at a moderate level, stealing only one meal or a day's living expenses, and he would not choose those poor or wealthy families. Poor people are already very miserable, and they may not necessarily have money, while wealthy families may be soul masters, so this is not his goal. Most of the thugs selected by Nan Fusheng were those who lacked soul power. With the help of the thieves, he had already taken control of those thugs before they even realized it. However, he only took one portion at a time. This is one of Nan Fusheng's rules as a thief, which states that, as a thief, one should not be excessively greedy. In the case of the Master of Secrets, the digestion of magic potions can be understood as magic potions, which is a profession, and playing is to do well in corresponding things to the profession and have one's own understanding. That is to say, a person needs to clarify what their profession is, whether it is a lawyer, writer, or beast tamer. They must explore and summarize the basic principles of this profession, and let their body, mind, and actions adapt to and follow these principles, playing a qualified professional social person. When your image finally meets the public's perception of these professions, you can digest the potion. However, just like in novels, it must be remembered that we are playing these professions, and deep down in our souls, we are still independent and self-reliant. After finishing a day of cultivation, Nan Fusheng went to bed. Chapter 2. One cutting all in the plan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push. The next morning, just as it was dawn, Nan Fusheng began to get up and dress. Today is the day of his enrollment, and he will officially enter Hongshan College. He will also be in the Soul Master class, starting his next 9 years of study. According to the regulations of the Sun-Moon Federation, both primary and secondary colleges are free compulsory education, with primary colleges teaching for 3 years and secondary colleges teaching for 6 years. There are several ways to promote oneself to higher education institutions, either by relying on excellent grades to enter, or by spending a lot of money to enter. Alternatively, one can enter some vocational colleges to learn a particular skill. I didn't expect to receive a 9-year compulsory education after traveling, but now I have to start playing my own role, otherwise it will be difficult to get along with the protagonist. Next door, Tang Ziren had just taken Tang Wulin out when he heard a roar coming from the next door. Get out of here early. How could I have given birth to such a wicked seed like you? With a sound of smashing, a boy slowly walked out. The little boy had fair skin, black circles in his eyes, and was thin and small. At first glance, he seemed to be suffering from malnutrition. Without saying a word, he closed the door and walked out, looking in the same direction as them. Tang Ziren frowned slowly upon seeing this scene. To be honest, he didn't know much about the neighbor next door, but he also learned a little from others. The family next door seemed to have only one mother and son. Men abandoned their wives and children, while women often abused their children and stayed at home all day, relying on their children to take care of their food. These were all things he heard from people around him. He thought these were rumors, but he didn't expect them to be true. However, he didn't say much. After all, it was someone else's family business, and he just silently followed Nan Fusheng with his own child, Tang Wulin, who was held by Tang Ziren, also looked at Nan Fusheng in front of him as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he remained silent. And walking ahead, Nan Fusheng showed a planned smile. Yes, all of this was his plan. Although he had the foundation to become the mysterious master, Fusheng Xuanhuang Tianzun, he did not have a corresponding ceremony for becoming a god. The ceremony can also be seen as part of playing the law. The Lord of Secrets is a world full of chaos and madness, and most high-sequence extraordinary beings have some mental disorders. The core function of ritual is to maintain self-awareness and assist in promotion. Although he became a thief for some reasons and has not heard any nonsense until now, he has not forgotten his first experience of going to Yuanbao. It's a bit unfortunate that he won't be able to become a high-sequence extraordinary in his lifetime, so he can only work together to become a powerful soul master. If you ask him why he is so confident, of course, it's because he is already a thief. Although he is only a low-sequence extraordinary now, he has some high-sequence abilities. The protagonist, Klein, in The Mysterious Lord, when still in the low sequence of the Fool pathway, was able to have that pathway due to the relationship with the Source Castle. Part of the abilities of the Miracle Master, in Sequence 2, Resurrection from Death is a miracle, so he, who possesses both the Source Castle and 3 unique, little heavenly sovereigns, has the ability to use some high sequences in advance, so there should be no problem with it. Uniqueness is the physical symbol of the authority corresponding to the sequence. Only by truly mastering uniqueness and integrating 3 extraordinary characteristics can one complete the transformation from human to divine and wield the authority of the sequence. This is the condition to become Sequence 0, but it is not that complicated. It does not require 3 extraordinary characteristics. As long as it becomes Sequence 1 and completes the fusion uniqueness, perhaps even a ritual is needed, then it can become a true god. Going too far, in simple terms, he can use the thief route. The abilities of Sequence 9 to Sequence 5 are a bit expensive and come at a certain cost. Sequence 4 is also not unusable and the ability of this pathway Sequence 6. Stealing. The ability to briefly steal someone else's extraordinary abilities for personal use. An ability that has the opportunity to steal a target within a 50-meter range. The more you understand the target, the easier it is to steal what you want, the more ignorant, and the closer it is to randomness, relying on luck. When the target sequence is higher than 6, there is a possibility of failure, and the higher it goes, the greater the probability of failure. High sequence strong individuals may also be stolen, but the probability is relatively low. Within 10 minutes of the ability taking effect, the stolen person will directly lose the corresponding ability, while the thief can proficiently use it. After 10 minutes, the ability will disappear, and the stolen person will have to wait until the next day to recover. If converted to a soul master, the higher the strength, the less likely it is to steal. In recent years, he has unexpectedly discovered that when he uses this stolen object as a soul master, he can steal a portion of the opponent's soul power. Although he will return it later, his body gradually gains soul power. The parents of this body are both ordinary people, of course. He does not have soul power, but when he steals soul power, his body is slowly nourished by these soul powers. Soul masters use martial souls and require soul power to activate soul skills. Therefore, when he steals soul skills, he can steal a certain amount of soul power from the opponent. To be honest, he never expected that when he thought it was a stolen target and couldn't use soul skills, but when his target was soul power, depending on the strength difference between the two sides, if there was not much difference, he could steal most of the target's soul power. When he discovered this ability, he did not misuse it, but stole it 2 or 3 times until his body had a certain level of soul power, which was also the reason why his innate soul power was only 1 level. The ability of stealing cannot be used indiscriminately. When the target he steals is a soul warrior who has just awakened his soul power, it doesn't matter. However, when the target is a soul master and the opponent cannot use martial souls and soul skills, there is a possibility of exposure. Although the possibility is small, he does not want to take this risk. Especially now, when he uses stealing once, he needs to rest for a short period of time. After all, this is not the ability he can use now. He can only use it once a day, and then there will be side effects of dizziness when using it again. And the roar of a woman that Tang Ziren just heard was also his masterpiece, the ability of the fortune teller, in Sequence 5. The master of secret puppets. Having the uniqueness of 3 pathways at the same time, he has the ability to use the other 2 pathways across pathways, which results in greater consumption. Simply put, the ability of the secret puppet master is to obtain the spiritual line field of vision. By manipulating the spiritual line of the target, it can directly affect the target's spiritual body, star's spiritual body, mental body, and ether body, and then use the ether body to control the target's body. However, it is probably because the world is different. In Douluo continent, it is through the spiritual body line, gradually eroding the target's spirit and martial soul, and then controlling the opponent's body. After initially mastering the spiritual line of the target will immediately experience delayed thinking, sluggish movements, and stiffness in the body, and gradually develop towards puppets and puppets. If the control process is not interrupted, after 5 minutes, the target will become a secret mate. In a sense, the target has truly died and the secret mate cannot be reversed. Nan Fusheng's mother, also known as the woman named Lan Yushi, made her a secret doll as early as when Nan Fusheng had just been reborn with the help of Yuanbao and had some residual strength. This woman only returned home at noon the day after Nan Fusheng's resurrection. To be honest, as a traveler, Nan Fusheng already had his own way of thinking. It is difficult for him to truly recognize strangers, even parents with such physical bodies, let alone kill them from a certain perspective. So when Lan Yushi returned home, he directly turned her into a secret doll because he was still too young. If Lan Yushi went out for a few days, he was afraid that he would die a few times. After that, he used Lan Yushi's soul guide communication machine to ask people to prepare some baby food. Fortunately, Lan Yushi has been turned into a secret doll and doesn't even need to eat, so he barely managed to get through his beginner's period. And the scene in the morning was deliberately directed by Nan Fusheng, a child who has no father and no pain from his mother. This can easily win sympathy from others, and it is also a move he plays for future contact with Tang Wulin and his family. However, controlling the spiritual body line really requires too much mental energy. In order to play this scene in front of Tang Wulin's family, he must pay attention to the timing. At the same time, controlling the secret doll does not consume spiritual energy, but his spiritual power, causing him to now look like he is staying up all night. However, it's okay, everything is in the plan. Chapter 3. Friends. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push. At the entrance of Hongshan College, Tang Ziren escorted Tang Wulin to the entrance of the college, which was very close to home. He instructed his son to go home directly after school. Glancing at Nan Fusheng, who was also alone at the school gate, Tang Ziren sighed but didn't say much and went straight to work. The Soul Master class has dedicated teachers to pick up students in front of the college gate, and the treatment is significantly better than that of ordinary classes. The regular class only provides normal cultural education, while the Soul Teacher class also teaches students with innate soul power how to become soul masters and their knowledge, preparing them for entering secondary colleges in the future. There are only 16 students in this year's Soul Master class, and there are too few children who accompany the awakening of martial souls with soul power, especially in small cities like Aolai City. There are quite a few of them this year. And at this time, in the Soul Master class where Nan Fusheng is located, "Hey, what is your martial soul?" a short, chubby boy approached Nan Fusheng and asked. Everyone is of the same age and full of curiosity about the upcoming career in the Soul Master class. Nan Fusheng said lightly, "It's a bug," and saw a semi-transparent bug lying quietly in Nan Fusheng's hand, occasionally wriggling. "Cut," the chubby little man said disdainfully, "it's a bug. Where's the useless martial soul?" After speaking, he turned his head and had to leave. And Nan Fusheng didn't say much, just quietly watched the chubby little boy go to the children around him, asking what their martial souls were. Quickly, the chubby little man asked Tang Wulin, and it seemed that there was still some dispute between the two sides. Tang Wulin said somewhat unconvinced, "What about you? What is your martial soul?" The chubby little man snorted, waved his right hand, and a cold light lit up. A short sword had already appeared in his hand. "See, my martial soul is a sword. If I can cultivate to the title Douluo in the future, I will call it the Sword God Douluo. My innate soul power is level 5. With these few blue-silver grasses, I can easily chop them into pieces." Looking at the short knife in someone else's hand, and then at the blue-silver grass in his own palm, Tang Wulin suddenly remembered what his father had said last night. Will it really be difficult to cultivate blue-silver grass into a soul master? Other students also showed off their own martial souls, each with its own characteristics, but no matter what kind of martial soul it was at least much better than his blue-silver grass. Also, because his martial soul was blue-silver grass, the elementary school members who gathered together in waves no longer came to pay attention to him. And when Nan Fuxing saw this, he also understood that it was time for him to appear. I believe you can definitely become a powerful soul master. A passage in his ear made Tang Wulin turn around and look in the direction of Nan Fuxing. It's him, that person in the morning, Tang Wulin thought to herself. Just as he was about to say something to Nan Fuxing, the teacher from the Soul Master class clapped his hands. Hello everyone, I am your homeroom teacher Lin Shimeng. In the next 3 years, I will teach you the basic knowledge of Soul Masters. Now, let's introduce yourself, including your own name, martial soul, and innate soul power level. There were only 15 students, and the introduction was quick. When Lin Shimeng heard Tang Wulin and Nan Fuxing introduce their martial souls as blue-silver grass and insects, she couldn't help but be a bit shocked. The other students laughed together. Nan Fuxing didn't feel much about it, after all, his martial soul was not strong no matter how he looked at it. At least blue-silver grass could be used by others. The martial soul of Tang San ancestor, the founder of the Tang clan, evolved from blue-silver grass to blue-silver emperor. As long as we work hard, we may be able to use it as an excuse to comfort ourselves. And is it difficult for him to use the example of Huiyuhao? However, he didn't have any million-year soul beasts to sacrifice, nor did he have any heavenly ancestors to pass on the legacy. He only had an inheritance from the secret lord, and Nan Fuxing was somewhat amused and thought about it. On the other side, Tang Wulin is different. Although Nan Fuxing comforted him just now and is now being ridiculed by others like him, he is still a child and his mentality is different from Nan Fuxing's. Tang Wulin's face turned red, as if holding a fire in her heart. Lin Shimeng's expression quickly returned to normal, and she smiled and said, "Today is your first day of class. The teacher will first teach you the classification of martial souls and guide you in preliminary meditation in the afternoon. Meditation is the only way to exercise and improve your soul power. If you want to become a true soul master, you must work hard. As is well known, in our world, everyone has their own martial soul. Martial souls awaken at the age of 6 and can be any existence. Those who accompany soul power can become soul masters through cultivation, that is, you. So, what are the classifications of martial souls? Firstly, martial souls can be divided into 2 categories. Instrumental martial souls and animal martial souls. Among them, those presented in the form of living bodies are all animal martial souls. Those presented in non-living bodies are instrumental martial souls. By cultivating soul power, one can enhance their martial souls. When the soul power level exceeds level 10, one can officially become a soul master. There are also 2 main categories of soul masters, namely war soul masters and weapon soul masters. Those who cultivate martial souls for combat purposes are called war soul masters, while those who cultivate martial souls for non-combat purposes are called weapon soul masters. There are also many subcategories for both martial souls and soul masters. Listening to Lin Shimeng's explanation of the classification of martial souls and soul masters, Tang Wulin's resentment gradually dissipated. He had been curious about the profession of soul masters since childhood, and this knowledge was like a magnificent world opening a brand new door to him. Nan Fuxing also listened attentively, looking for a book garden www.zhaoxuan.com. Although he had also learned about the setting of Douluo continent in his past life, there is still a gap between the novel and reality, let alone someone who often eats book settings. After discussing some common knowledge about the cultivation of soul masters, Lin Shimeng also began to teach some words about Douluo continent. After all, even soul masters are not born to know them. Nan Fuxing didn't listen to this part so seriously because he had already studied it on his own. Time quickly arrived at noon, and the academic life of the college included a lunch without limit. The students in the Soul Master class also have much better meals than ordinary students. Although he is a soul warrior, Nan Fusheng's appetite is slightly more than that of ordinary children, but his neighbor Tang Wulin is different. Tang Wulin ate a lot, to the extent that he immediately gained the nickname of a foodie. He has so many, almost equivalent to half of the other dozen or so classmates combined. More than an adult's appetite, which also made Tang Wulin quite frustrated. Eating is a blessing, but I envy you being able to eat so carefree. Tang Wulin turned her head and looked next to him, the person in the morning. Do you really believe that I can become a powerful soul master? Tang Wulin looked at Nan Fusheng and didn't know what to say for a moment. Finally, she twisted and said this sentence. Of course, the teacher of the sea god Tang San, the famous master in history, once said. There are no useless martial souls, only useless soul masters. Nan Fusheng spoke words he didn't believe either. However, Tang Wulin believed and saw him clench his fist. That's right, there are no useless martial souls, only useless soul masters, thank you. Looking at Tang Wulin, who seemed to have been PUA, Nan Fusheng also responded to him. After these few words, the distance between Nan Fusheng and Tang Wulin also narrowed significantly. Chapter 4. The Emergence of the Silver Dragon. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, in the afternoon, after school at Hongshan College when Tang Wulin and Nan Fusheng walked out of Hongshan Academy together, Tang Wulin's face was full of unhappiness. He didn't feel depressed about everything he encountered today even after growing up so big. He grew up in a very ordinary civilian family, but the family was harmonious, and his parents had a good relationship. They also loved him very much, and even when he made mistakes, they taught him earnestly. But today at the college, he felt for the first time what difficulty means. Due to the fact that Wu Hun is a blue-silver grass, besides his good friend Nan Fusheng, his classmates reject him, and even the teacher is not enthusiastic about him. When guiding the students to meditate in the afternoon, the teacher stayed here for almost the least amount of time. Why is it almost because Nan Fusheng is also like him? Is my martial soul really that bad? Tang Wulin's unhappy face gradually turned into stubbornness. Even if my martial soul is not good, I must become a great soul master. Nan Fusheng is right, there are no useless martial souls, only useless soul masters. Success is 99% effort plus 1% talent. If my martial soul is not good enough, then I will work hard. Looking at Tang Wulin, who had been PUA by him all afternoon, Nan Fusheng couldn't help but feel speechless. This child is too easy to deceive, right? He just gave Tang Wulin some poisonous chicken soup from his past life, but he didn't expect him to truly believe it. There is nothing difficult in the world, only those with a heart. This sentence is not effective in the Douluo continent, where blood, martial soul, and everything are almost determined. However, there is one thing he did not deceive Tang Wulin, which is that he will definitely become a powerful soul master in the future. With the bloodline of the Golden Dragon King and the son of the Divine King, as well as the head of the plane and the core of life, Yi Nai, and the father of the Divine King's 3 phone meetings, as long as you follow the steps, you can directly become a god. Fusheng, if you have nothing to do after school, would you like to come and have dinner with me? My mother's cooking is so delicious. On the other hand, Tang Wulin had slowly overcome his depression. He was naturally outgoing and had a clear idea in his heart. With the encouragement of Nan Fusheng, the suppression of the day naturally dissipated. However, at this moment, his stomach rang, making Tang Wulin's face slightly red, and he did not forget to invite Nan Fusheng beside him. Okay, Nan Fusheng beside him agreed without hesitation, which was originally one of his goals. Tang Wulin and Nan Fusheng were walking when a small figure on the roadside suddenly caught his attention. The afternoon sunshine may not be as abundant as noon, but today's weather is very good, so the sunlight still brings some warmth to the body. What attracted Tang Wulin was a touch of silver under the sunshine. There was a little girl squatting on the roadside, looking even smaller than him, but she had short silver hair, and the sunlight shone on her rare hair color, naturally reflecting. It seemed like something was pulling each other in the dark, and the little girl looked up at him. Her face was dirty, and with her somewhat tattered clothes, she looked like a little beggar no matter what. But besides her silver short hair, she also has unique eyes. Her eyes were large, with pupils like two clear amethysts. Even at a distance, Tang Wulin seemed to be able to see her reflection through her pupils. The long eyelashes naturally curl upwards. For eyes met, and the little girl did not dodge his gaze. Her beautiful big eyes only carried a hint of suspicion. "Coming, Silver Dragon King," Nan Fusheng whispered beside him. For this famous Silver Dragon King, it was the first time Nan Fusheng had seen him. How to put it, he was indeed beautiful. Even though he only looked like a child now, it was not difficult to see that he would definitely be a stunning beauty in the future. Plus this white hair, no wonder so many fan fiction novels like to treat her as the female lead. "Little girl, where are your parents?" At this moment, several flowing young people were also attracted by the silver hair and approached the little girl. The little girl didn't look at them and lowered her head again. A few young people looked at each other, and one of them said, "This silver hair is really rare. Maybe it's from a different race from 2 other continents. It's estimated that the underground black market will really like her, and her eyes are purple." The other young people suddenly showed a greedy expression in their eyes and nodded to each other. The young man who spoke earlier crouched down and said, "Hello, little sister. Where is your family?" The little girl lowered her head, shook her head, but remained silent. The young man smiled and said, "Are you hungry? Brother, how about taking you to eat something delicious?" The little girl shook her head again, and this time she became even more forceful. The young man glanced at his companions, reached out and grabbed the little girl's arm, pulling her up from the ground, while the other few gathered around to block the view from outside. Amidst the exclamation of the little girl, the young man had already carried him on his shoulder. "What are you doing?" At this moment, a childish roar rang out, startling several young people at Xuanhuang.com. When they looked back, they couldn't help but show a look of embarrassment. The 2 little ones who stood up to defend themselves were actually 2 little ones. One was a beautiful little boy who was not as tall as their waist, and the other was a thin and weak little boy with black circles in his eyes. A young man behind him showed a hint of malice in his eyes, lifted his foot and kicked Tang Wulin. "Little brat, you dare to meddle in your own business." Upon seeing this, Nan Fusheng immediately came to Tang Wulin and let the young man kick him in the air. On the other side, the young man carrying the little girl showed a fierce expression on his face. The movement on this side had already caught the attention of some passers-by, as it was still on the street. With a flick of his wrist, a cold and flickering dagger had reached his palm and gestured to Tang Wulin, "If you don't want to die, get out of here." Upon seeing this, Nan Fusheng immediately drank, "We are 2 soul masters, some of whom are registered by the federal government and the Spirit Tower. If you harm us, be careful not to be caught in the bureau. Bad luck." Perhaps being intimidated by Nan Fusheng's words, the young man led by him let out a resentful snort, put down the little girl on his shoulder, and quickly ran away with a few companions in a disheveled manner. The little girl stumbled and fell to the ground. Tang Wulin quickly ran over and squatted beside her. "Don't be afraid, I'm a man, I'll protect you." The little girl looked up at him, getting closer. Her large purple eyes looked even more beautiful, and there seemed to be a layer of mist floating over her pupils. "Don't cry, don't cry. The bad guys have already been driven away by me. My name is Tang Wulin, and that's Nan Fusheng over there. What's your name?" The little girl was stunned and finally spoke for the first time, "My name is Nar." Chapter 5. Is the Evil Soul Master all about me? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, Nar. A beautiful name, and your voice is also very pleasant. Tang Wulin helped her up. Na lowered her head and remained silent again. Where are your parents? Where is your home? Tang Wulin asked. Na shook her head. Gugu. A strange voice suddenly sounded disharmoniously. Tang Wulin quickly lowered his head and looked at his stomach, but he soon realized that the sound was not made by himself. Although Nar's small face with her head down was covered in a lot of dust, a faint blush could still be seen. Are you hungry? If you can't find your dad or mom, I'll take you back to my house. The food my mom cooked is so delicious. Tang Wulin said as she grabbed Nar's hand and walked towards her home. At this moment, Nan Fusheng, standing beside him, was staring blankly at the two people who had passed away, the subway elderly man JPG. No, although we may become hostile towards each other in the future due to our position, is it really good for you to be so, color over friendship, now? Especially the words on my lips, it seems like you just said something similar to me. Mom, I'm back. Before entering, Tang Wulin had already shouted outside, followed by Nan Fusheng who had finally been remembered and Nar with some mud on her face. You child, keep your voice down and don't disturb the neighbors, Tang Wulin's mother sounded with a hint of anger, and the door opened accordingly. Tang Wulin's mother, Lang Yu, is not very beautiful, but she is full of charm. How was school today? Oh, why did you get all dirty? Lang Yu frowned as she looked at her son covered in dust, and then she saw Nar in Tang Wulin's hand and Nan Fusheng beside her. Mom, I've met a bad person. Tang Wulin vividly recounted what she had just encountered. Of course, Tang Wulin was dragged into the house by Lang Yu for an education, but in the end, under Tang Wulin's spoiled behavior, Lang Yu could only choose to forgive him. Lang Yu crouched down and looked at Nar and Nan Fusheng, who had never spoken before. Children, are you called Nar and Nan Fusheng? Where are your parents? Like before, Nar just shook her head but didn't say anything. And Nan Fusheng spoke up, Hello auntie, my home is the house next door, my mother is next door, and my father. He remained silent. The atmosphere was momentarily silent. Lang Yu also noticed that she seemed to have asked someone about their sadness, so she immediately began to shift the topic. Look at you three who are dirty, let me wash you and change your clothes first. 5a6.year. Old child naturally has no gender difference, so Lang Yu took three little mud monkey-like children to the bathroom and washed them. When Tang Wulin asked his mother why Nar was different from him and Nan Fusheng, Lang Yu just smiled without answering, but Nar shyly hid behind Lang Yu. Wow, Nar, you're so beautiful. Tong Yanwuji sat at the dining table, with Tang Wulin holding his chin in both hands. He looked at Nar sitting next to him, wearing his clothes, and said directly. Tang Wulin's clothes looked a bit loose on Nar. But this does not affect Nar's beauty. Her skin was even fairer than Tang Wulin's, as if she could squeeze out water with a gentle squeeze. Because after just taking a shower, my body exudes a fresh and faint fragrance, and I am dressed in powder like a porcelain doll. It's not dinner time yet. Lang Yu brought 3 plates of cookies and 3 cups of milk to give to the 3 hungry children. Although Nar doesn't like to talk, she eats without hesitation and at a very fast pace. In a short while, she cleans up the cookies and milk in front of her. Seeing this, Nan Fusheng handed over his plate of cookies and said, You eat it. I ate a lot at noon and I'm not hungry now. Nar hesitated for a moment, but it was obvious that the temptation of cookies was quite great for her, and finally she started eating them again. Meanwhile, Nan Fusheng was drinking milk and watching Lang Yu inquire about Nar's information, but in the end, he only found out that Nar was only 5.5 years old and did not know any other information. Later, Mom will take Nar to the administrator's place to check if we can find her family. Wu Lin, you and Fusheng can play at home for a while. Lang Yu finally took Nar out, and she turned around and said to Tang Wulin. Nar still spoke very little, just followed her and left. Auntie, It's not too late now. I should also go home, otherwise I'm afraid my mother will worry. Nan Fusheng spoke up. Okay, but remember to come and play more often in the future. Because she knew that Nan Fusheng's house was next door, Lang Yu didn't worry about him either. She just turned around and touched Nan Fusheng's head, saying gently. Nan Fusheng's home is not too big, with a living room of over 10 square meters, a small kitchen and bathroom, and 2 rooms of less than 10 square meters. That's all about the home. After returning home, Nan Fusheng walked directly to one of the rooms, which was originally his parents' room. Nan Fusheng directly opened the door and walked in, only to see a figure lying on the bed, with a constantly undulating chest, indicating that this was a living person in his mother, Lan Yushi. Seeing that Lan Yushi was safe and sound, Nan Fusheng slowly breathed a sigh of relief and looked for the Xuanhuang website www.zhaoxuan.com. He then raised his right hand, and a semi-transparent bug slowly emerged, which was his martial soul. Nan Fusheng placed his martial soul on Lan Yushi's body, and saw the insect martial soul slowly fade away on Lan Yushi's body before finally disappearing. Nan Fusheng closed his eyes and sensed the interior of his body. Suddenly, a touch of qi and blood appeared directly in his body, slowly merging into it. Sure enough, Nan Fusheng opened his eyes and walked out of the room, leaving Lan Yushi lying alone in bed. In the living room, Nan Fusheng sat on the sofa, pondering on how to proceed in the future. Firstly, the protagonist group could follow, which also made it easier for him to grasp the development of the plot. This is also one of his strengths now. He didn't think too much about his relationship with the Silver Dragon King Nar. It was obvious that Nar's attitude towards him was completely different from that towards Tang Wulin. No, it should be said that Nar has a different attitude towards Tang Wulin and people outside of Tang Wulin. This is also impossible, after all. He does not have the bloodline and divine core of the Golden Dragon King, but it may not be possible in the future. This is also the reason why he became friends with Tang Wulin. After all, it is easy to dodge a clear gun and difficult to defend against a hidden arrow. At the same time, he also discovered the ability of his martial soul to slowly absorb the qi and blood of others. Although the effect is not obvious, this ability is too limited. Firstly, he needs to stay next to the target and place a martial soul on the target to absorb it, and the speed is not fast, which is the disadvantage of this ability. Secondly, it is unclear how effective this ability is in absorbing qi and blood from living individuals, as Lan Yushi is his secret companion, and whether he can absorb the soul power of a soul master is still unknown. Finally, this ability is also easily attributed to the category of evil soul masters. Although, to some extent, he can also be considered a demon soul master. Chapter 6. Promotion of Sequence 8 Scammer. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push. In the living room, Nan Fusheng recalled what the teacher had taught him in class today and decided to meditate and give it a try. Sit cross-legged and concentrate. Meditation starts with being quiet, feeling oneself, and experiencing nature. This is the first step. Nan Fusheng had no distractions in his heart, and soon he fell silent. Consciousness silently feels its insect martial soul, feeling the soul power that is not strong but actually exists. Preliminary meditation requires only this step to be achieved. First, sense your martial soul and soul power, and keep your spirit in close contact with them. Only when this step is done well can one continue true meditation. In his mind, the insect martial soul was slowly wriggling, and Nan Fusheng suddenly felt as if he had sensed something from the insect world. Although it may be weak, as long as the timing is ripe, there is always a possibility of breaking through its cocoon and becoming a butterfly. Weak insects, however, have tenacious vitality. They are the largest number of insects on the continent and have existed strong for millions of years. Powerful like soul beasts, they are on the brink of extinction, but insects still exist on this land, just like they did tens of thousands of years ago. The faint enlightenment made Nan Fuxing vaguely feel that there were some small entities in the air quietly pouring into his body, merging into his still very weak soul power. This fusion is not fast and there is not much quantity. But he could just feel that his soul power was gradually increasing in this fusion. Even if it's just a gradual increase, it's very stable and continuous. I don't know how long it took, but Nan Fuxing naturally woke up from his meditative state and felt a refreshing sensation throughout his body. Is this the feeling of soul power cultivation? Not bad. Nan Fuxing sensed that his soul power was almost reaching level 2, and he only needed to practice for a day to break through. The cultivation of soul power between soul warriors and soul masters is not difficult. As long as there is innate soul power, even if it is only half a level, as long as one is willing to work hard, they can successfully reach level 10. The only difference is the length of time. Although Nan Fuxing only has one level of innate soul power, which he obtained through theft, his physical fitness is not low. The magic potion system itself gradually rises from human to divine, and now he is approximately equivalent to the cultivation speed of about 3 levels of innate soul power. At this moment, an excited shout came from the next door, "Great, I have a younger sister now." Upon hearing this sound, Nan Fuxing already knew that Silver Dragon Wang Nar had officially moved into Tang Wulin's house, which also meant he had to accelerate the progress. At the same time, he was able to conduct the experiment he had previously envisioned. Nan Fuxing slowly closed his eyes and recalled a few words with high concentration. Fuxing Xuanhuang Tianzun. Fuxing Xuanhuang Tianzun. Fuxing Xuanhuang God. Fuxing Xuanhuang Tianzun. Nan Fuxing kept silently reciting these words in his heart, and suddenly he felt the air around him stop flowing, becoming sticky and eerie. Although his eyes were tightly closed, Nan Fuxing felt a beam of light explode in front of him. Nan Fuxing opened his eyes, and the diffuse gray mist reflected in his eyes, hazy, blurry, and boundless. After entering the Source Castle, Nan Fuxing continued to silently recite this sentence, only to see a light cluster of gold, yellow, and red intertwined slowly emerging in front of him. Nan Fuxing reached out and grabbed the light, opened his mouth, and threw it into his mouth, all in one go without any hesitation. Immediately afterwards, Nan Fuxing noticed that his face was turning red, and there were similar changes in other parts of his body. He was very convinced that he was like a steamed shrimp now, but his spirit had withdrawn and turned into fine needles, infused with drops of magic potion, piercing into each cell. That is a feeling where cells can be observed without the need for a microscope, and Nan Fuxing stands there, seeing the intruder enter the most subtle realm of his body. In these few seconds, he felt like a robot, undergoing modifications to parts and circuits. After an unknown amount of time, Nan Fuxing's figure was reflected in his mind, as if he had heard his singing voice through his ears. With the help of this eerie reflection, Nan Fuxing found himself able to accurately grasp facial expressions and body movements. At this point, he clearly knew that he had been promoted successfully and had become a fraudster. Nan Fuxing directly withdrew from Yuan Bao and began to familiarize himself with his abilities. Charm. Can enhance charm. Eloquence. To make one's words highly persuasive. Mental interference. Creating illusions to deceive opponents. Scammers take pleasure in deceiving others and are good at deceiving. Additionally, agile in action and fast in speed. Previously, it was also mentioned that magic potions need to be digested, and that magic potions in sequence 9 usually take about 1 to 2 years to play. The fastest way is to digest it in a month. And Nan Fuxing spent almost 6 years searching for the Xuanyuan website www.zhaoxuanyuan.com, which was also impossible. Whoever was born in a baby became an extraordinary person. When Nan Fuxing officially played the role, he was between 4 and 5 years old. It was only when he was about to awaken his martial soul that he digested the magic potion. Now, Nan Fuxing is sensing his own situation, and his soul power has successfully reached level 2, and his physical fitness has also been further strengthened. His cultivation speed is approximately equivalent to level 5 of his innate soul power, and he can probably take one step closer after the magic potion is digested. However, the next issue is money. Becoming a soul master requires money. If it were 10,000 years ago, he could have hunted soul beasts, but now soul beasts are almost extinct. The only way to become a soul master is to purchase souls. Unfortunately, soul spirits are still very expensive. Considering the situation at the home of Nan Fusheng, currently purchasing soul spirits can only be done by purchasing the cheapest randomly selected soul spirits 30,000 federal coins. Nan Fusheng's family was not wealthy, and poverty was the source of all arguments. Nan Fusheng's father ran away from home 3 months after he was born, while his mother was made a secret spouse by him. In this situation, he had to support his smooth growth, and most of the family's money was also consumed. So when Nan Fusheng was over 4 years old, he sometimes went to do odd jobs, just go wherever there was a need. Obviously, a child laborer is not needed in most industries. After all, there are federal laws that prohibit the recruitment of child laborers, except for soul masters. There are people who can recruit Nan Fusheng. One is to see him pitiful and want to help him. Another type is human traffickers. For the former, Nan Fusheng only wants food as a reward. For the latter, if you can steal, then steal and never be soft-hearted. In this way, with deductions and occasional visits to some thugs to add meals, as well as family inheritance, we managed to raise over 30,000 federal dollars. Introduction to the path names of the protagonist. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, the Fool's Path, sequence 9 to sequence 0. Divinator, Joker, Magician, Faceless Man, Master of Puppetry, Sorcerer, Ancient Scholar, Miracle Master, Secret Servant, Fool. Wrong Pathway, sequence 9 to sequence 0. Thieves, Fraudsters, Decryption Scholars, Fire Thieves, Dream Thieves, Parasites, Deceitful Mentors, Trojan Horses of Fate, Worms of Time, Mistakes. Gate Pathway, sequence 9 to sequence 0. Apprentice, Magician, Astrologer, Recorder, Traveler, Archmage, Wanderer, Traveler, Star Key, Door. Mysterious Lord, Old. Promotion Criteria. Yuanbao, plus the uniqueness of Fool, plus Error, plus Gate, plus one extraordinary feature of the Secret Waiter, plus one extraordinary characteristic of the Worm of Time, plus one Star Key with extraordinary features. Chapter 7. The Methods of Playing a Scammer. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, the next morning, after bidding farewell to his mother Nar, Tang Wulin went to school in high spirits. One night of meditation made him increasingly feel intimate with the martial soul of Blue Silver Grass, to the extent that he had a special sense of familiarity with Blue Silver Grass. This is a figure ahead that caught his attention. Fusheng, this way. Tang Wulin saw her good friend and couldn't wait to share the joy of her happy little sister with her. Nan Fusheng listened quietly, when Tang Wulin suddenly noticed that his friend's face seemed to be slightly red, and there seemed to be some purple on his hands. Upon closer inspection, several scars crisscrossed his face, and it seemed like a palm print. Fusheng, what's wrong with the injury on your body? Did someone bully you? Tang Wulin saw that her good friend seemed to have been bullied and quickly asked. It's okay, I've gotten used to it. Nan Fusheng, on the other hand, looked indifferent. No matter how Tang Wulin asked, he didn't get an answer, and even the excitement of getting his sister yesterday was diluted a lot. The atmosphere between the two became somewhat silent, and in the end, they walked to school. The Soul Master class does not learn the knowledge of Soul Masters every day, but rather one day of Soul Master knowledge and one day of cultural classes. Today is the cultural classes' turn. Nan Fusheng was not enthusiastic about cultural courses, but Tang Wulin listened attentively and received praise from the teacher during the class. After school at Hongshan College, Mom, why did you come to pick me up? Where's Nar? Tang Wulin saw Lang Yu as soon as she left the school gate after school. Lang Yu's eyes showed a hint of heartache, and she quickly walked over to pick up her son. Mom, put me down quickly. I'm already a big child, let my classmates see how difficult it is. Lang Yu chuckled and said, you're my son too. Hello auntie, said Nan Fusheng, who was following beside him, it's Zaya Fusheng. Did Zaya Wulin cause you any trouble today? Lang Yu touched Nan Fusheng's head and said. Xiao Fusheng, what's going on with you? At this moment, Lang Yu saw the scars on Nan Fusheng's body. Although the scars had gradually faded, it could still be seen that they must have been left recently. Yesterday, when Nan Fusheng was a guest at their house, he did not have these scars on his body. If anyone bullies you, you can tell your aunt that she will help you with justice, Lang Yu said. Nan Fusheng shook his head and said, Auntie, thank you for your concern, but it's not a big deal. There's something else at home, so I'll go back first. Nan Fusheng refused Lang Yu's kindness and thanked her before leaving directly. Lang Yu frowned. Although she had just met Nan Fusheng, she had a good impression of this well-behaved child. However, Nan Fusheng refused to say the reason, and she couldn't force anything. Lang Yu regained her senses and remembered her visit to school today. She crouched down and said to Tang Wulin, Mom sent you to Uncle Mangtian's place. Do you really want to learn forging? Nan Fusheng was unaware of what was happening behind him. After returning home, he began practicing soul power and did not finish until evening. On the other hand, at Tang Wulin's home, Lang Yu and Tang Ziren had a discussion about the topic of Tang Wulin learning forging. Finally, they decided to wait and see, and if not, let Tang Wulin give up. At the dining table, Tang Wulin's arms were sore from forging, and he could only sit there, chewing hard while smiling at Nar beside him. Nar was clumsily feeding him one bite at a time. This scene left Tang Ziren and Lang Yu stunned. The two beautiful little figures sat there, creating an extremely harmonious scene under the dim light. At school, I saw some scars on Fusheng's body. Wu Lin, do you know what's going on? At the dining table, Lang Yu recalled a scene she had seen in the afternoon and suddenly asked this question. Lang Yu is not someone who likes to meddle, but Nan Fusheng and Tang Wulin have a good relationship, and she has a good impression of Nan Fusheng, which is why she casually asks such a question. I don't know either. When I asked Fusheng this morning, he refused to say it, just said he was used to it, Tang Wulin said while eating. On the day when Tang Wulin decided to adopt Nar, he also talked to Tang Ziren about the matter of Nan Fusheng. At that time, Tang Ziren also passed federal laws to scare off those young people and encouraged Tang Wulin to learn more from them. Tang Ziren frowned and, after some thought, decided to share some of the information he had learned during this period with his family. I have been inquiring about the situation at Nan Fusheng's home recently, and how can I put it? His family's situation is not very good. Tang Ziren paused for a moment before continuing to speak. Nan Fusheng's father seems to have abandoned their mother and son, and his mother's spirit is also somewhat abnormal. Her attitude towards him is also very cold, and she occasionally beats and scolds him. She usually doesn't go out of the house and calls for food and drink through the Soul Guide communication machine. Other neighbors once wanted to chat with her, but were turned off. Find Xuanhuang www.zhaoxuyuan.com. As for Nan Fusheng, his personal situation is a bit complicated. Speaking of this, Tang Ziren's face was somewhat complicated. Speak up quickly, don't be too presumptuous. Upon hearing this, Lang Yu's curiosity was aroused, and Tang Wulin and Nar on the side also stared at him curiously. When Nan Fusheng was around 4 years old, he often went to run errands for some small restaurants in exchange for food. There used to be some kind-hearted people who wanted to report the situation to their mother and ask her to take good care of their children, but she scolded them, even caught and beaten them. Over time, no one dared to interfere with her. How could there be such parents in the world? Xiao Fusheng is too pitiful to have met such parents. Women are all emotional, let alone Lang Yu, who is already a parent, so she feels even more sympathetic towards Nan Fusheng's situation. Tang Wulin on the side also nodded along. At this moment, Nan Fusheng, who was being discussed, also felt that his magic potion was being rapidly digested by him. Sure enough, this method can also be considered fraud. Nan Fusheng Sequence 8, Scammer's Potion Digestion, requires him to play the role of a scammer, so, from a young age, Nan Fusheng created a character with a tragic background to pave the way for the next sequence of magic potions to digest. This kind of early play is also possible. The protagonist, Klein, in The Lord of Secrets, is played in advance, and in the end, even the entrance of the Sequence 1 magic potion is melted. Nan Fusheng can feel that most of his magic potion has been digested, and the rest only needs to be polished over time, and this time is not too long. Although others have also provided me with assistance in digestion, the big heads are Tang Wulin and Nar. Chapter 8. Purpose. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push. Previously, when Nan Fusheng was promoted to fraudster, he immediately digested a lot after entering the entrance of the magic potion due to playing in advance. However, tonight his magic potion suddenly digested most of it. The reason he could think of was that this morning, he deliberately let Tang Wulin and the others see the situation. They should be discussing him now. Scammers, fraudsters, mainly refer to fraud and deceiving others. They don't necessarily have to go there to defraud others' money. To be honest, this discovery also breathed a sigh of relief for Nan Fusheng. After all, if he were to scam others, if the amount was small, the digestion process would definitely not be too fast and it would take too long. If the amount is too large, he is afraid that he will send himself to the bureau. This also gave Nan Fusheng a better understanding of acting, which is determined by his own understanding of the profession and the inner feelings of the actor. Whether it is good or evil depends on the actor, and since each person has different personalities, the behavior style of each fraudster is different. Just like a physician, he can make medicine to save people and poison to kill, but whether to use it or not depends on himself. The three paths of the mysterious master where Nan Fusheng is located are Fool, Gate, and Error. The ritual of the Fool Pathway Sequence 1 is: establish a secret puppet town and design their own destiny trajectory for each puppet, allowing them to interact and interpret a sufficiently realistic picture of life, giving birth to corresponding areas in the spiritual realm. The larger the size of the town, the more secret objects there are, the more refined the daily life is, the more vivid and realistic the different fates are, and the longer the ceremony is, the better the effect. But if you want to establish this secret doll town on your own, it requires a lot of effort and time, especially in the designing your own destiny trajectory for each secret doll. This is equivalent to having someone build the life trajectory of everyone in the town, and also have to play the role of everyone on your own. But if success can be achieved quickly through another method, it is to turn all the population of a town into secret couples, which saves both time and effort. But this is also equivalent to killing everyone in a town. The choice between these two methods varies from person to person and from person to person. For Nan Fusheng, if he cannot digest the magic potion after so many years of preparation, he can only try other ways to see if it can be considered fraud, for example, being an auctioneer, who uses eloquence and other means to sell the auction item at a price far beyond its own value is not only a form of fraud, but also legal. Directly deceiving others is the last and worst way. After all, fools are not easy to find. At the same time, the digestion progress of the magic potion also informed Nan Fusheng of the uniqueness of Tang Wulin and Nar. That is, persona, which plays a crucial role in The Lord of Secrets, whether as a source of power, a channel for energy supply, or a symbol of authority and influence. It is essentially a higher form of extraordinary characteristics that have a permanent impact on the body and soul. For example, certain potions may cause permanent changes to the user's body, such as increasing height or changing gender. These side effects caused by magic potions will not disappear even if they lose their extraordinary characteristics. And Tang Wulin and Nar, one with the divine core of the Golden Dragon King sealed on their bodies, and the other as the Silver Dragon King's true master, even though they have now transformed into humans, their positions will not change. And Tang Wulin, the divine core of the Golden Dragon King, seems to be counted as part of him. Based on the current progress, my magic potion will be digested in about a few days. Nan Fusheng was not surprised by the digestion speed of the magic potion, and even felt that it was a bit slow. For example, Nan Fusheng is still a thief. He stole $1 from an ordinary person, and the concept of stealing $1 from a deity is completely different. It may be that Tang Wulin has not yet opened the seal of the Golden Dragon King, or the concept of the two worlds is a little different. After all, the world of the Lord of Secrets is more inclined to the Cthulhu style. Although there was a slight gap as imagined, Nan Fusheng was not too disappointed. However, this also convinced him of the importance of establishing a good relationship with Tang Wulin. If nothing unexpected happens, I will probably be following Tang Wulin for a long time, and this will also lay the groundwork for stealing the bloodline of the Golden Dragon King in the future. The adult world has no emotions, only interests. For Nan Fusheng, the Golden Dragon King bloodline may not be necessary, but he is still accustomed to laying a foreshadowing, in case he needs it in the future. However, at this stage, for Tang Wulin, Nan Fusheng still focuses on building a good relationship. After all, although Tang Hao and A Yin are defending against the invasion of the Abyss, they cannot take action in Douluo continent, not to mention anything else. When Nan Fusheng and Tang Wulin first met Nar, they searched for Xuanhuang www.zhaoxuan.com. Although it was only for a moment, Nan Fusheng suddenly felt palpitations at first. He thought it was an illusion, but later on, he remembered that it should have been a warning from the Source Castle or his own spirituality. The encounter between Tang Wulin and Nar was definitely a spoof between them or Tang San. After all, the transformation of the Silver Dragon King happened to happen in an accident, and it happened to be wandering outside. Just as it was almost taken away by the thugs, it was encountered by them. No matter what I think, it's not right. Emperor Tian and his team went and it took them 3 years to find it. At least when Tang Wulin and Nar met, the couple Tang Hao and A Yin were definitely paying attention. At that time, if he dared to cut off the beard, their Tang family's daughter-in-law might not have been walking and being hit by a soul guide car, or encountering an evil soul master on the way and then being bumped out. In addition, there are also the Titan ape and the sky blue bull python. Anyway, he won't take action against Tang Wulin for the time being until he reaches Sequence 2 or can freely borrow the abilities of Sequence 2 without paying too much. The thief's sequence is 0, and in the wrong path, Sequence 2 is the Fate Trojan, also known as the Fate Thief. Being able to manipulate the fate of others and cause them to make certain mistakes within a certain period of time is considered a loophole in fate. Simply put, it means being able to steal the fate of others and appear in their place. Making them unlucky, losing their connection with everything in the real world, and dying bit by bit is truly social death. With this ability, he can even try to acquire some opportunities for Tang Wulin in the future. Some small opportunities don't matter, he can't let go of some big ones. For example, in the future, when Tang Wulin is drugged with aphrodisiacs, Gu Yuna will use a move called Fate Steal to help him. That scene. TSK. Chapter 9. Dream Thief and Obtaining Souls. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, finally, I'm at level 3, and now I'm on the same level as Tang Wulin. The next morning, Nan Fusheng opened his eyes and practiced all night. Of course, the reason for his breakthrough was still due to the digestion of the magic potion. During the process of digestion, the magic potion allows his soul power to operate rapidly, and the principle is also partially understood by Nan Fusheng. In the process of digesting the magic potion, it will strengthen Nan Fusheng's physical fitness and foundation. At the same time, during this process, Nan Fusheng's soul power was also driven to cultivate, and its operating speed was dozens of times faster than usual. Of course, this situation only occurs when the magic potion has a fast digestion speed, which is roughly equivalent to adding a temporary acceleration buff to it. And the next thing, as expected by Nan Fusheng, Tang Wulin occasionally looked at him at school with some sympathy in his eyes. Tang Wulin's mother, Lang Yu, also invited him to play with Nar at home after school. Regarding this, Nan Fusheng agreed to it verbally, but he didn't plan to go there often. He just wanted to get along well with Nar. After all, he didn't have Tang Wulin's Golden Dragon King bloodline in terms of how to boost his popularity, which gave Nar a high level of goodwill. In addition, the Ain couple is also a problem. After all, the relationship between Tang Wulin and Nar was definitely cultivated by their own efforts. It is estimated that this is also one of the guarantees that Nar will not take immediate action when she discovers the Golden Dragon King bloodline on Tang Wulin's body after recovering her memory. In this way, Nan Fusheng's daily routine is to practice and ponder acting techniques. Of course, after Nar went to school, he had to go beat people with Tang Wulin, because Nar was proven to have no martial soul at all on awakening day. So, one can only enter regular classes for learning. At the same time, because Nar is beautiful, it makes female classmates of the same age jealous, and also arouses the curiosity of male classmates, who occasionally harass her. However, because Nar is in an ordinary class, their opponents are mostly ordinary people without soul power, which is not difficult to fight against. In this situation, time slowly passes by. 3 years later, Dad, Mom, I've saved enough money, I've saved enough. Tang Wulin Fei also rushed into the house and shouted excitedly. The neighboring Nan Fusheng also heard this shout and raised his lips, saying, "Have you finally reached level 10? I've been waiting for more than a year." After 3 years, Nan Fusheng's height has now exceeded 1.4 meters, slightly higher than his peers. He has a moderate figure, neither fat nor thin, and doesn't look particularly strong. As he grew older, his face also became more handsome, a pair of dark eyes, coincidentally giving people a profound feeling. For Nan Fusheng, he could have gone to obtain souls a year ago, but he did not do so. Because his innate soul power is only at level 1, it should not be possible to have too fast cultivation speed. Of course, the main factor is that he has to wait for Tang Wulin. By reaching level 10 before graduating from a junior college, one can obtain a recommendation letter from the college, making it much easier to enter an intermediate college, but he is not sure if the recommendation letter for this college is fixed. If it is not fixed, it will be troublesome. For Nan Fusheng, the difference between becoming a soul master 1 year earlier and becoming a soul master 1 year later can still be tolerated. After all, it is not impossible to cultivate, it is just that the speed of cultivation for soul masters is not as fast as that of soul masters. But he must go to the intermediate academy in Donghai City, such as the future Shrek 7 monsters and Dancing Sky, and of course, the half-body of the Silver Dragon King, Guyu, which is also something he can interact with. After 3 years, when his soul power reached level 10, Nan Fusheng focused on playing the Dharma body. Now, he is a serial 5 dream thief. Now his theft can take away other people's ideals and dreams. It is possible to steal the memories of others, and it is possible to steal the ideas that the other party intends to put into practice, causing them to experience temporary stagnation. However, at this stage, the stolen ideas cannot be retained, and one must take corresponding actions on behalf of the stolen object. So tomorrow, go and get the soul. The spiritual pagoda organization has a history of thousands of years. Due to their importance to soul masters and their groundbreaking research on artificial spirits, their status has skyrocketed and spread across 3 continents, becoming one of the most powerful forces. Aolai City also has a branch of the spiritual pagoda, located in the center of the city. It is a 3-story tower-like building, which is the lowest level of the spiritual pagoda branch. Spiritual pagodas in medium-sized cities can reach 7 floors, while those in large cities can reach 13 floors. The spiritual pagoda is located at the headquarters of Shrek City, and after years of repairs, it has 81 floors and is known as the most magnificent building on the continent of Douluo. The 3-story transmission tower presented in front of Nan Fusheng is also the largest building in Aolai City. Everyone knows its location, but very few have actually entered it. When Nan Fusheng arrived, the main gate of the Spirit Pagoda was already wide open, but there were not many people. After all, this it is a place where only soul masters come, and the number of soul masters in small places like Aolai City is few and far between. The Xuanhuang Pagoda is an octagonal structure with 3 floors, 4 sides, and 8 directions. The internal space is very spacious, with marble paving on the ground marked with a spirit tower, and the hall is spacious. There is a circle of doors around that leads to an unknown direction. Looking for the book garden www.zhaoxuyuan.com, there is a counter-like place in front of it, and behind it sits a spiritual master wearing a gray robe. Seeing him, the teleporter had already stood up and his gaze fell on Nan Fusheng. "Hello, kid, what can I do for you?" Nan Fusheng said, "Hello, Master Spirit Transmission, I am here to purchase soul spirits. My soul power has reached level 10. Upon hearing his words, the enthusiasm on the face of the spiritual master suddenly increased a bit. "Have you brought enough money?" asked the spiritual master. Nan Fusheng said, "That's enough." The spiritual master said, "What level of soul do you want to purchase, child?" Nan Fusheng. "Master of Spiritual Transmission, I want to purchase randomly selected spirits." The passion on the face of the spiritual master suddenly dissipated, and he frowned and said, "Random spirits can be drawn for 10 years or even 100 years. But the type is uncertain, and it is very likely that the spirits drawn are not suitable for your martial soul. Some people choose this method to save money and luck. But I don't recommend it. It would be more helpful for you to choose a suitable 10-year white soul. By doing so, randomly selecting spirits may lead to a 100-year-old soul, but at the same time, it is also possible to select defective products. Child, you are still too young, so it's better to go home and discuss with adults before making a decision." Nan Fusheng shook his head and said, "I don't have a father, and my mother has some mental problems due to some reasons. My family still needs to leave some money to take care of her. 30,000 federal dollars is already the limit of my family's current limit. I can only try my luck, maybe God will bless me and give me a good soul." "What a sensible child," said the spiritual master as he listened to Nan Fusheng's words, his expression softened.